מה קורה חברים? ברוכים הבאים לעוד פרק של פיגסקין כשר, הפודקאסט הגדול בישראל על עולם ה-NFL. היום מחכה לנו פרק מיוחד מאוד עם אחד האנשים הכי מוכרים שיש והמוערכים ביותר בעולם הפוטבול. האורח שלנו הוא וולטר, אני לא אנסה להגיד את השם משפחה שלו, אבל הוא וולטר, המייסד של WolterFootball.com, אחד האתרים הוותיקים והמובילים בעולם לסיקור הדראפט של ה-NFL, פנטזי פוטבול של ה-NFL והימורי ספורט. בפרק של היום אנחנו נתכונן יחד לעונת הפנטזי של 2026, ביחד גם כן עם מיכאל סגל, שעושה את הופעתו הראשונה, העונה, כאן בפיגסקין כשר. נדבר על שחקני הליגה שיכולים להפוך לליג ווינרס, על סליפרים האוהבים עליו, על אסטרטגיות לדראפט, על טעויות שכדאי להימנע מהם, וכמובן נסיים עם כמה מהימורי ה-NFL האהובים עליו לעונה הקרובה. עכשיו אנחנו נחליף לאנגלית, אז hello everyone and welcome back to the Kosher Pigskin, Israel's leading NFL podcast. Today's episode is a very special one because we are joined today by someone who has been one of the biggest names in the NFL draft. We've got Wouter from WolterFootball.com. I'm not even going to try and say your last name, Wouter, even though you did tell me last time you were Jewish and it might be a Jewish name, but it's that hard that even a Jew can't say that name. Better known, so Wouter from WolterFootball.com, is one of the most popular football websites in the world for NFL draft coverage, fantasy football rankings, betting analysis, and year-round NFL content. If I'm not mistaken, it is the most accurate NFL draft, real NFL mock draft that there is out there. So today we're going to dive into everything you need to know before your 2026 fantasy drafts. We'll talk about Walter's favorite league winners, busts, sleepers, the players he's avoiding, overall draft strategy, and how to approach your fantasy drafts for the 2026 season. We also have here Michael Segal, who's a regular here at Kosher Pigskin. So Walter, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I know this is a very busy time for you, for us, for everyone, but we're excited to have you here again, back for a second season here at the Kosher Pigskin. Welcome to the show, my Jewish brother.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. We were going like back and forth, like when I could come on, like my kids, like my son got sick, and then I had to pick up my kids from daycare. So like it's a little crazy, especially with football about to start. We have preseason in about 7 hours or 6 hours. So it's gonna be very exciting. So yeah, here we go. So once again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned preseason. I wasn't gonna ask you, but I guess now that you mentioned it, who are some teams that we should be looking out for tonight when it comes to fantasy football?
Well, we know the Titans are going to start their starters. Now they're going to play like 2 or 3 drives at most, and it's really a crapshoot as to like which teams are going to start their starters. You know, like some coach will say, "Oh, we're going to play our starters." Well, they play like 5 snaps and then they're out of there. So like it's a lot different. It really is a lot different. Last decade, I can remember specifically 2007 season. That was the year of the Patriots got Randy Moss and Wes Welker, and no one knew about Wes Welker. Everyone knew about Randy Moss, but remember the preseason, like these guys would play until like the second quarter.
Yes.
And Tom Brady would target Wes Welker on like so many passes. I'm like, this guy might be legit. And I remember learning something about that. These days, you know, most of the teams don't even play the starters.
It's only 3 games, and they're playing 1 out of the 3 games, and they're playing like 2 snaps.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would add to that though that we should be keeping an eye more on the rookies because, like, for example, I'm a Bengals fan. The Bengals are starting their starters, but we know what we're getting from the Bengals offense, whether they start their starters or not. Where it comes to the rookies, we do want to see, you know, Carnell Tate out there. I don't know if Jadarian Price is playing, but Jadarian Price is another name maybe to keep your eye out for. Let's get into some strategy. So I do have a question about draft strategy this year. What's your approach? I do like the loading up on running backs strategy for this year, especially for the end of the draft. Actually, I find that you can stack like Genty, Hampton there, and then get yourself like a receiver. And a lot of leagues today are, especially in Israel, for the crowd that follows us, do have 2 flex spots in their league. So I really like using those 2 flex spots for running backs and load up on those heavy. I just see like a ton of value at receiver for this year later on in drafts. But I'd like to hear what you think. Which draft strategy do you like the most this year whether it's redraft or best ball?
I totally agree with your take on that. My goal is to get like 4 running backs in the first 6, maybe 7 rounds, depending on where you're drafting. Running back is very scarce this year, and it also is always scarce. But compared to the other positions, like sometimes receiver is scarce too. But this year there are a lot of good value receivers I found in like round 10, 11, 12, and onward. A lot of these rookies are impressing in training camp, and I'm loading up on them late in the draft. But as far as like the first 6, 7 rounds, I went running back because after like round 6 or round 7, it really dries up, and you're like, I did a fantasy mock draft the other night, which we usually do if there's no football games. We do that live around I would say 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And one my partner on the show, he had 1 running back to start because he's like, let me try this hero running back strategy. And like he couldn't get any good running backs. Like Rashad White was his second running back. Like it's okay. Like I'm fine if Rashad White's my 4th running back, not my second. And then you get a bunch of handcuffs and maybe some of them hit, but like late in the draft, you're getting receivers who are going to start. You're getting quarterbacks who are actually good. Brock Purdy in that mock draft went round 16. Like you can wait on quarterbacks, especially tight end. There were some good tight ends who were drafted. Dalton Schultz, for example, was not drafted. Greg Dulcich wasn't drafted. I like those guys. So yeah, you can certainly wait on quarterback and tight end till the end. Receiver, you can't wait as long, but you can wait longer than running backs. That is the rarest position this year.
I totally agree. I would just like to add one small thing because I'd like to strengthen your position. From the many mock drafts and real drafts I've done so far, where I've shown enough, let's say, calmness to wait with tight end and quarterback, because they will slip. Because you're not the only one who's thinking that way, and you will suddenly see a tight end who was usually available at the 4th, suddenly slip to the 5th or even the 6th. Maybe at the 6th you'll reconsider. But if you wait your time and you take your tight end and starting quarterback late, you will find yourself usually with a better overall value, even though be aware of the slip. If, for example, Jalen Hurts is suddenly available at the 6th round, I would strongly advise to go for it. But at the 4th or even the 5th, I think I would rather wait to take at the 10th or 11th round Jason Dart from the Giants.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, there's some like great quarterbacks or tight ends who like, if they fall a little bit, like you have to take them, like just because they could win the league for you. Like my top quarterback this year, value wise, in the middle of the draft is Drake May. Like if he's there around in best ball, like round 6 or even early round 7, like I'm taking him, even though I want to take on a weight on a quarterback. So I certainly agree with what you said.
Yeah. And actually, like I have a big draft coming up, and it's a 10-man redraft league, 2 flex, regular classic PPR, and I got chosen I got chosen to pick last, and they're all like laughing at me, and I'm like, guys, this is freaking unbelievable. Like I'm not telling them, but like I feel like I can get Genty, Hampton, Mika 3rd round. I can then take 2 more running backs with my 2 flex. Like I can get a Javonte Williams, Quinshon Judkins, who I really like, and we'll hear from you in a second who you like in those areas of the draft. And then I can still get like a Brian Thomas Jr. and Marvin Harrison or something like that. And I feel like that's just like a crazy team for this year's fantasy football. So I think like, especially for a 10-man league, drafting at the end is unbelievable. Sometimes even James Cook falls to there.
This is the most excitement I've heard attached to Brian Thomas Jr.'s name in like 14 months.
I agree that drafting late, I'd rather draft at the end than the middle. I prefer like 1 and 2, but then if you can't get 1 and 2, I'd rather go 10, 9, 8 and onward up till 3.
Yeah. In another league of mine, I was drafting 4, and that was like I just hated that. I was like, yeah. Especially if you like running backs. So but the flip side of that is that you can get we do see value in wide receiver later. So who are some of the receivers, maybe sleeper receivers that you love, like in the middle rounds of the draft when you go when you take your running backs, or even receivers that we think are going to bust also on the other side?
So, a lot of the I mentioned the rookies. Denzel Boston, the rookie receiver from the Browns, I had him projected in the 1st round. He went 2nd round, and he is extremely talented, and you're seeing it in training camp. I know a guy who went to Browns training camp to watch him. He came away saying he's like, it was a religious experience watching this guy practice. So he is already a receiver 1 on the team. He's in the starting lineup. Like, despite, like, when have you seen that from a second day receiver who like without a preseason game. It's not like, okay, he lit it up in the preseason, it's going to start. Like there's no preseason game yet. So he's looking fantastic. Jacoby Lane, the rookie receiver from Baltimore, is a 3rd-round pick. I love this guy. And I was talking to some of our sources here. Now, a lot of the sources aren't like in tune with fantasy, but one is, and we asked him like, okay, like who could be this year's Puka Nacua, like a mid-round receiver rookie who just goes off. And he said Jacoby Lane. And so this is before training camp. And now training camp, I read a report from a longtime beat writer who, you can't always trust these guys, but this guy's been reporting for like 20 or 30 years. He said that Jacoby Lane's training camp was the best training camp he's ever seen from a rookie in his I
actually saw that report also.
Yeah. So,
and also add to that now, that Zay Flowers is dealing with an injury.
Right.
On top of that.
That even adds to it. So Jacoby Lane is a guy I'm targeting late. One other rookie, Zachariah Branch. He's so explosive. Like he can go the distance anytime he touches the ball. He went 3rd round. I think he would have gone 2nd round if he didn't get in trouble off the field like a month before the draft. I like, what are you thinking? Like you're about to get drafted. Like if you get in trouble, like wait after the draft. Right? But like he went 3rd round. He's dynamite on the field. And Atlanta, they have nothing at receiver outside Drake London and Kyle Pitts, if you want to count him. But like Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus, like these guys are not good. Like Branch, maybe not to start the year, but like second half of the year, especially in the fantasy playoffs, he could really be a league winner. And then one veteran I would say is Jaden Reed. He has not played in 3 receiver sets in his career. However, he's practicing 2 receiver sets now. He's never played in 2 receiver sets. He's now practicing 2 receiver sets in training camp. And that's because Romeo Doubs is gone, Dontavian Wicks is gone. It's him and Watson, and let's face it, Watson is a long shot to play the whole year. So Jaden Reed could be the number 1 receiver, whereas in the past it was Watson or Doubs, and now it could be his turn to shine. And so round 8 or round 9, I'm usually taking him. He dealt with an ankle injury earlier in training camp, but he's practicing it again, so that's no longer an issue.
Yeah, a couple notes on that I want to respond to. So first of all, Denzel Boston's going 159 overall right now, around receiver 57, which is like almost free. And then there's Casey Concepcion, who I've been actually targeting more Casey Concepcion. But if you have any inside information on which one looks better there at training camp, that'd be nice. But Casey Concepcion also, but both of them are super talented. And I think the point here is that you can actually find yourself a receiver 1 so late in the draft. Where I would bet a lot of money that either Denzel Boston or Casey Concepcion are going to be the wide receiver 1 because Jerry Jeudy sucks.
Yeah.
And you're getting that literally for like free. Whereas in running back, you cannot find that. You need to bank on an injury for that to happen. So here you're actually getting like pretty sure wide receiver 1. And Zachariah Branch, also a guy we've been speaking a lot about here on the show, and he's super talented. And yeah, I don't see any other way but for him to finish as the wide receiver 2 on the Falcons. Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden. I like Matthew Golden more than Jaden Reed, kind of, because I think that they're going to use him a lot more this year, and I see his value isn't that much better than Jaden Reed from what I remember. I think it's about a round cheaper. So it's not rounds, maybe two rounds is already gets more significant, but I do see a lot of value in Golden. But regardless, I think we both agree that Christian Watson is also. I mean, the guy. I think 620 yards is the most yards he's ever had in 4 years. Like,
I cannot understand his current ADP.
Yeah,
it seems he's getting very close to his ceiling in terms of pricing. We know even when he's healthy, it's not like he's that incredible. No doubt, I prefer Reed. I prefer Golden at a much cheaper price. And as you said, I strongly agree. You don't see those 10. 12 round league winners who are running backs. You don't get those. They are completely dependent on injuries and luck. But all the guys you talked about are basically free or near free, and this is the real joy of this position. And I understand why Boston is right now the religious experience, the church in Cleveland. But Concepcion is such a cool name. Just because of that, I'm keeping my eyes on. But I also think there's a trend, and you'll probably see it in many drafts, especially less veteran people. When you get to the late rounds, like your last couple of free, suddenly you see a name like Jerry Jeudy, a household name, a well-known name. And you say, oh, what does it matter? I'll go later. I'll throw him to the waiver. There's no reason to take him even at the 12th round. There's just no value in that pick. Take Boston, and you might be disappointed. but it has such a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing, like, sometimes you have these guys in your leagues, your friends that aren't like crazy football fans, but they're enough fans to play fantasy football. And then they like get to a name like Jerry. Oh, I know that name, Jerry Judy. Like, let me take him. He's probably a good player because I know the name.
Yeah.
So those are always fun players to play against. But let's talk about some busts. Who are some of your predictions for big time busts this year? First, second, third round players.
I have two in the first round, and they're both going in the middle of the first round. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know how you take him in the first round. Like, yeah, sure, he has a high ceiling. Like, you can't deny that. But he is a 30-year-old running back. He led the NFL in carries last year, and it's like every other year he gets hurt. You're on, you're off. You're on, you're off. Like that's how his career has gone. And he had a year on last year. So the trend says he's going to have a year off. Like everyone in the Niners always gets injured. I don't know if it's the electrical substation or anything. I've heard they don't stretch. Like that's probably more likely the explanation. But whatever it is, though, I don't trust him to stay healthy. An older player coming off a pinnacle year, I would just pass on that. The other first round running back is Jonathan Taylor. I love Taylor's talent. No, don't get me wrong, but he's this offense just looks like it could be so decrepit. Like, first of all, Daniel Jones is coming off the torn Achilles, which is a big risk on its own. And second, you have all these receivers are injured. Alec Pierce, I don't think is going to play anytime soon. Josh Downs is banged up. If those guys are out, their top receivers are going to be Ashton Doolin and Nick Westbrook-Akine. And when your defense, like when you're defense coordinator, you're looking at that, it's like, oh, that's awesome. I don't have to worry about the pass. Let me just load up the box and stop Jonathan Taylor. That's what happened last year. Taylor had a great start to his year, and then Jones got hurt. And then it was either Riley Leonard or Phillip Rivers, and the defense is like, oh, we don't have to worry about the pass. Let's just load up the box. And then in the fantasy playoffs, Taylor let you down. I feel like there could be a continuation of that to start the season. So those are the two running backs in the first round I'm avoiding. I'm also avoiding Rashee Rice. He's going like late round 2 for some reason. I get that. Like if he was available in round 4, I don't even know if I'd take him.
Very similar to Watson also, like just a guy who
Yes.
can't crack 600-700 yards. And like for some reason people are like all over, where there's other talent on the team. It's not like there's no one. I mean, there's Xavier Worthy, there's Travis Kelce is still there, Patrick Mahomes' best friend. Patrick Mahomes, is he going to play? We don't even know. It could be Justin Fields. I just see way too many question marks around Rashee Rice for him to be going that high in draft, when there's other good value out there, like way more safe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is, he's like Watson. He's an injury waiting to happen. He always gets banged up, but he's also an arrest waiting to happen. Like he always finds a way to commit crimes, So it's not like a guy on one of my team, and really he's not like. He's not that good, if he was like a Jamar Chase, a Puka Nacua type player, but you're like, oh, he might be arrested at any point. At least like there's huge upside. But like him, there's not that much upside. So like, I don't get why he's going mid round 2.
Yeah, is he going to pass JSN? Is he going to pass CeeDee Lamb? Is he going to pass any of those AJ Brown? Like, no. So like, you take a receiver that you think can pass one of those guys, Ladd McConkey, Amika, one of those receivers that has that big upside, in my opinion.
Yeah. And also, I mean, even if Mahomes plays, there's been a downward trend with him. It's no one's talking about it, but last year on passes 10 or more yards downfield in terms of accuracy, he was the third least accurate quarterback in the NFL. The other two guys in the bottom 3, JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix. So like he was in that group, and it was not a 1-year thing. Like the year before, he was not accurate downfield either. So like, what is going on with this guy? Tyreek Hill is missed there. They don't have that sort of explosive player, and I'm still a believer in Mahomes' talent, but like coming off the torn ACL, it's very, very easy to be skeptical about that. So those are the 3 main guys I'm avoiding. Also, to a lesser extent, Kyren Williams, just because of where he's going. Like I love the offense he's in, but it's gonna be almost 50-50 with him and Blake Corum. And I want to.
It was 50-50 last year, second half of the year.
Right.
50-50.
And Sean McVay praising Corum in the offseason. McVay usually a more truthful than lying coach. So I'm more likely to believe him. And yet, like, think about the difference there is Kyren Williams is going round 3, Corum's going round 8. So like they really should be like 4 or 5, like somewhere in that range. I think Williams going too early, and Jeremiah Love also. I know I get the hype with him, but it's a 3-man committee on a horrible team, and then Carson Beck when he comes in is probably going to be worse. So I'm not drafting him either.
Interesting. So Jeremiah Love is actually a guy who I do like as part of like loading up on running backs, just because like of the upside. And if you take 3 other running backs around Jeremiah Love, then I feel a bit more safe with that bet. But I do advise the people on Culture Pigskin that it comes with a lot of risk. Like you can totally see. I mean, Genti's year last year wasn't as bad as people think it was, but you could see something similar to Genty where it wasn't it didn't make justice the pick where Genty went last year. You know, he had to go a little bit later, and that would have been more justified. And the same we can see here for Jeremiah Love. I agree. I mean, the talent's there. I mean, next year I think all of us will be all in on Jeremiah Love. But right now, it's a big question mark. I do think though that James Conner is not going to be on the team by the start of the season. I think their running back room is loaded. He's the old guy in the team, and I don't think they're going to have space for another running back.
For me, Love is like great talent. I don't think anyone thinks otherwise. And probably if he's on 28 different teams in the league, he's a first-round pick, perhaps. But to me, he's the kind of guy I won't draft in the third round. But I am very much aware of the fact that he might have a slow start due to the Arizona Cardinals offense. And at the second part of the season, he might have a blow-up. So whoever on my league is drafting him, I'm trying to listen to some frustration in the voice and maybe around week 4, week 5, try a lowball offer because I do believe the second part of the season, he might return on investment.
I think that's pretty smart. Yeah, like you always want to buy low, and if he starts slowly, he'll buy low. Look, if you're right about James Conner not being on the team, that will certainly elevate his status in my mind. Just for me, I feel like they trust him so much on third down, and like teams usually don't want to trust a rookie running back on third down with the lapse in blocking and everything like that. Now. Maybe late in the year, maybe they trade James Conner to a team that like is desperate for running back and they just want a veteran. Then if that happens, we could see that. We could certainly see, like as Michael said, like in the second half of the year, he just takes off and is a league winner. But yeah, to start the year, I do think he's going to go to a slow start.
Yeah, that makes sense. So before we get to some fan questions, Michael, you have any questions you want to ask Walter?
Yeah, I was really waiting for this. So I'm just kind of hijacking Walter. I would really love from your experience throughout the years, if you can give us a little bit of your expertise and experience of, okay, we're in the worst time of the year, in my opinion, fantasy, because we don't have proper football, but we have training camp. And from training camp, everyone razzles and dazzles, and everyone's got a great story. And it seems like there's 8 wide receivers who are about to be the best thing since Jerry Rice. How do you, I don't know, kind of go between the weeds and find the truth between all the glamour?
It's tough to trust a lot of the beat reporters. Like there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of pieces that come out that are just for clicks, and so you have to be skeptical of everything you read. Like I'll give you an example, like Cyrus Allen going on with the Chiefs, like the hype with him. I don't know. I tweeted out, I'm like, I'm old enough to remember when Sky Moore was the great receiver out of the training camp for the Chiefs. Like, I'm not willing to believe that because I never had high conviction on Cyrus Allen. Like, okay, and maybe I'm wrong. I think there's a small percentage chance I'm wrong. But, with the reports, whenever I see a report, it has to be confirmation of what I already believe. Like I already believe Denzel Boston was a great prospect. Like I said, I had him in first round. And when he's going off, like, I can understand why he would. Same thing with Zachariah Branch. Same thing with Jacoby Lane, because we were told that information before training camp. And then we hear Lane is having the best training camp of any Baltimore rookie receiver or any Baltimore rookie in general. Then I'm likely to believe that. But if I hear, player X is going off and I'm like, oh, I didn't like him in the first place, I'm not going to suddenly change my conviction. I'm just going to be like, let me remain skeptical. And you know what? People are going to see this news. People are going to draft this guy earlier. And so even it's hard. It's kind of like buying a meme stock when it's already at the top. You're like, you don't buy it. You don't do that. If you liked it in the beginning and you bought it, that's great. But buying at the top's a mistake. And then you're going to see, you're like Cyrus Allen, like he went from like being undrafted, and then suddenly at best ball he's going like round 15, 16. I'm like, you can get Zachariah Branch there. I'd rather have Zachariah Branch like by far over Cyrus Allen. So and you can really use this to your advantage. Like if you see a report and you're like, I don't believe this, like you can fade that player, or if there's on the other hand, if someone's struggling in training camp, this is not the greatest example. Like Mark Andrews, I'm hearing that he's really struggling in camp now. Right. So he's an older player. So like I said, this is not the best example, but let's just say, for example, if he's younger and here he's struggling in camp. Here's a better example. Jamar Chase was dropping everything, right, his rookie year. I'm like, Chase, I thought he was an amazing prospect. I'm like, let me not believe that. Let me see him fall in ADP, average draft position, and get him in a later round. So you can take advantage of these bogus reports, but you can also, like I said, you have to be skeptical of the good ones too.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'll add to that also because I think there's two things that we have to do as fantasy football players. One is don't necessarily read or believe every single report. Look at what the team is actually doing on paper. How much snaps are the players getting in training camp? For example, let's say, this is maybe another thing that we should pay attention to is the talent. So like this week, the big news was Mike McDaniel spoke about the three running back monster that they're going to be using this year, where we all know that the real talent there is Omarion Hampton. And he's like, we're going to be playing it by the hot hand. Well, the hot hand buddy is going to be Omarion Hampton. He's going to be the hot hand 90% of the time. So, like, I wouldn't buy into that too much. Like, Keaton Mitchell, he might be there for a few passing downs. Kimani Vidal, nothing special. We saw him last year. Hampton's the guy. Like, trust the team. They invested crazy draft capital in this player or in any such player, and the player's talent. So,
yeah,
when go with what the team is doing.
Yeah, that report was. It's crazy how people react to it. Again, you can take advantage of this. Like now, I'm getting Hampton round 2. Like, he said he was going to use all 3 running backs. I believe him because if he gives Keaton Mitchell 4 or 5 touches or 6 touches a game, he's using him, right? If he gives Kimani Vidal 1 or 2 carries a game, he's using him. Right, he's telling the truth. But like, in what world is Kimani Vidal the hot hand over Hampton? Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Like,
if you want to win football games, you're going to be giving the ball to Hampton. There's no,
of course, of course, yeah. Mitchell's fast. He's got that going for him. But he's 191 pounds. He can't handle the 4 workload. He's not going to get goal line stuff. Like, it's going to be Hampton. There's no need to be concerned about that.
The definition of a change of pace running back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's. I do want to give you the opportunity of Walter. I should have done this at the beginning, but I do want you to tell us a little bit about WalterFootball.com before we get to 2 fan questions, and then we'll let you go. So just give us a bit brief, WalterFootball.com.
Yeah. It's we cover everything in the NFL. We have a ton of fantasy stuff like rankings, busts, sleepers, values, etc. We also cover the NFL draft. You mentioned our accuracy. Our NFL draft writer Charlie Campbell. He's had the most accurate mock draft in like 5 out of the past 10 years. It's remarkable. So we have 2027 NFL mock drafts. We actually have a 2028 NFL mock draft as well. If you're interested in that, we have NFL picks against the spread. We grade every signing. We grade every trade. We grade every coaching change. We have season previews right now. If you're interested in reading up on what these teams are going to do this year, we have futures bets. And by the way, you said you're a Bengal fan. I picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl this year. So hopefully,
I never bet on the Bengals, and I don't recommend any Bengals players in fantasy football. Right. I've learned that the hard way. And I've seen a lot of people that pick the Bengals. I think it's a good value bet to pick them because based off the value, them and the Broncos. Any other bets that you like?
Well, I've done a bunch of exacta bets. So I've done Bengals with Bengals with Rams both ways. Bengals with Lions both ways. By the way, the Lions have the easiest schedule in the NFL. Bengals with 49ers both ways. And here's a trend, by the way, which could strengthen the Bengals support. The past 4 Super Bowl teams all played the NFC South, all 4 teams in the NFC South. You had last year, you had Patriots and you had the Seahawks. They played all 4 NFC South teams. Year before, Chiefs and Eagles all played all 4 NFC South teams. It's very easy to rack up wins when you're playing these garbage teams. And this year, the 2 divisions playing the NFC South in the 4 games, you have the AFC North and the NFC North, which is the Bengals. My Super Bowl predictions, Bengals over Lions.
All right, I'm there for. I'll be at the game if that happens.
Nice.
But I do think the Bengals are. It's all down to I think Joe Burrow staying healthy. Yeah. I think their defense has improved a lot, and it'll come down to Joe Burrow. I'll just read straight out the fan questions. So one of them, he writes, first of all, thank you so much for all the work you both do. He's talking to me and to you. Put into your fantasy football content every year. I really appreciate it. I have a question about draft strategy. So he's saying we talk a lot about the heavy running back approach, but at what point do you abandon that strategy? For example, in one of my drafts, I picked from the 10th spot, and by the time I got back to me, there simply weren't any running backs I felt comfortable taking. Chase Brown was the next running back on the board, but I didn't think he was worth taking at pick 10 or 11. So I completely changed course and started my draft with 2 wide receivers instead. So he's basically asking, at what point do you say, okay, I should take a receiver here? And then you're really, like you said at the beginning of the episode, you're really stuck. You might be stuck with no running backs.
Yeah, so you do have to pivot. Like, you can't just go like, oh, I'm taking running backs no matter what, and then there are no running backs to take. It's like, you're not going to take the next best one. You could, I mean, there are some great receivers to start this draft. I guess pick 10 or 11. You look at maybe like AJ Brown or CD Lamb or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, those
Collins.
Yeah, right. There's all phenomenal picks that you could take. And when I said that I like to take 4 running backs in the first 6 or 7 rounds, I'm also, the other picks are ace receivers. Like I had a draft the other night. I took James Cook, I think at 110, and then 203 I got AJ Brown, and then 310 came around and Emeka Ibuka was still there. So like, okay, let me take Ibuka, and then at 403 I take Javonte Williams. At 509, at 510 I take either, I think it was Judkins or Bashal Tootin, forget which one. And then I ended up with Blake Corum after that, and so I was like, okay, I got 4 really, really good running backs and 2 ace receivers. That's a great start to your team. So like, you don't need to worry about a position if they're all off the board. That's why I think, like, in addition to rankings, you should have these players blocked off in like tiers. So like, you're like, all these running back tiers are gone, but these top receivers are still there. Let me take a top receiver. So you kind of have to play by ear. Things can go awry. As the Mike Tyson quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So like, that can happen, right? But yeah, it's important to have like a plan B, or just go best player available if one of the positions you don't like are there, because the next tier you can get in the next round probably.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also that that you need to be flexible. You have to have a plan. You have to have 2 plans, 3 plans, whatever it is. You can't just go by one rule and that's it, and follow it and bang your head into the wall. But on the other hand, you also shouldn't be scared to take players ahead of their ADP, because they just won't fall to you. Okay, last question here. We didn't speak tight end, so this is a good question. When do you think it's worth pulling the trigger on one of the elite tight ends? I'll answer this first, and then let's see what you think. So if someone like Colston Loveland is sitting there in the late 4th or early 5th, is that enough value to move away from your original draft plan, or would you still rather continue building your running back and wide receiver depth? I'll say that I personally think if you're gonna, there's four elite tight ends in this year's NFL, right? We got Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, McBride, and Bowers. I think the best value of those 4 is actually Tyler Warren, because he is like, there's no one else on that team. There's no one there. It's just him. Like, Alec Pierce stinks, and he doesn't look like he's going to be playing. Then you got Josh Downs, who's not a real wide receiver 1. So it's really Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland, there's a lot of mouths to feed on that team. And then you've got McBride, who I think reached a pinnacle last year, and it's going to be very hard for him to reach 300 fantasy points again. And Brock Bowers, I like as well. Just you got to pay a 2nd or 1st round pick sometimes for him. So I really think the best value is Tyler Warren. If you're not taking any of those 4 tight ends, I would wait on tight end for a later safe tight end. In the 10th rounds, Kenyon Sadiq and Gaddiston or a Brenton Strange from the Jaguars, one of those tight ends.
I would slightly push back on one thing you said. I slightly disagree. Yes, in Chicago there are several mouths to feed, but it's not that many when you consider the fact that they have a horrendous defense. They will chuck it a lot. Burden is currently injured, but he's supposed to return by the beginning of the season. Romeo Dunze, I have no idea how this guy became from such a lofty target last season. And the camp, everyone loved him, and now he's like just being burned by Burden. Like, no one talks about him, even though his ADP and Burden's are almost identical. I think Loveland is the number 1 guy there. He's for sure the number 1 guy in the red zone. And due to their defense, that offense is going to throw a lot. If you believe in Caleb, I think Loveland is the sexiest pick of the group.
So for me, it's all about value. Like where is the value in this draft? And you kind of have to do it that way. It's kind of like in daily fantasy. Like you identify the value first, and then you realize, okay, I'm going to build top heavy or just go more balanced. And the value in fantasy this year is quarterback and tight end. There's so many good ones late. As I said, in that draft I did, Dalton Schultz did not get drafted. Greg Dulcich did not get drafted. I think Pat Frymuth bounces back because Jonnu Smith is gone. He did not go drafted. Like, you can get these guys in round 14, then you kicker defense at the end. I think that's what I'm doing. However, you always have to identify value even at the top. So like, Brock Bowers, I found that he usually goes mid round 2. I'm not going to take him mid round 2, but if he falls to like mid to late round 3, if like everyone in your league doesn't like tight ends, you kind of have to pull the trigger there. He's a league winner. McBride, I'm less high on, like you said, pinnacle year. Also, when Carson Beck comes in, you can kiss those touchdowns goodbye. Loveland, if he's going like mid to late round 4, I'm not touching him there. But if he's there late 5, early 6, I'm going to pull the trigger. Same with Warren a little bit later. The 2 tight ends I like in the middle are Harold Fannin with no David Njoku there. He is so athletic. He's almost like a receiver. And then you have Dallas Goedert, who's, he's on the older side. He's not quite old yet, but he is how Philadelphia's offense works is read 1 with Jalen Hurts, read 1, read 2, run. Like the old joke is like, oh, the Eagles have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Who's the third receiver? The answer is there is no third receiver because they don't look at the third receiver. But now AJ Brown is gone, and so read 1 is Devontae Smith, who I love this year. Your read 2 is now Dallas Goedert, and so Goddard, if you have ever seen his stats, if you ever see his stats without AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, he has insane games. Like week 2 of 2024 against the Saints, he went off for like 180 yards or something. And plus he's playing for a contract this year. I love him as well. But like, even when I take them, I'm always leaving the draft like, I guess I should have taken a running back or receiver there, receiver usually, because there's so many good ones late, and I always have like buyer's remorse there, as much as I love those guys. So usually I'm going to wait on tight ends, but just wait for the value, because the value might open up early on or in the middle. But if it doesn't, you're just going to get a good tight end late. So unless you're in a league where, you have to start 2 tight ends, or you get 1.5 points per reception for tight ends. If you're not in those sort of leagues, certainly wait on tight ends.
Among the late targets, I will say I always go for Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, I love Likely this year.
There's a very clear road for success for him. Of course, it might not pan out, but for the price you're paying, it's totally worth the price of admission.
Yeah. I like to combine like a I would call it like a more safe tight end with an upside tight end, like a Kenyon Sadiq and a like an Isaiah Likely or a Brenton Strange, or one of those tight ends who are more safe. So
you draft with 2 tight ends?
I like to take 2 tight ends.
Very
especially if I'm taking Kenyon Sadiq as an upside backup. It's worked out with my last 4 years with Bowers, Warren, all the way up to Laporta. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
Well, if it works, yeah, definitely keep doing it. I'm in the same camp as Michael. I don't like to take multiple tight ends. There might be like a rare exception, if I get one, like for example, I get one with great value, but like say for example, like Harold Fannin falls for some reason, like really far. I'm like, this guy's awesome. Like maybe I could take both and trade one of them, but I'm not going to carry 2 on my roster for very long. I feel like there's just so many good ones. And if you're a bus, you could just pick up a decent one on the waiver wire. And like tight end are really a matchup based. Like there are some defenses that just can't handle tight ends. Like the Cardinals for years, they've always struggled with tight ends. The Bengals. Bengals have habitually been.
We've struggled with everyone. We've struggled with
that's true.
With birds flying around the field.
That's true. But like Pat Frymuth, I believe, had his best game last year against the Bengals. So yeah, like there are certain teams that can't handle tight ends. You could play matchups with them.
Yeah. All right, Walter, thank you so much for taking the time and being here with us. We really appreciate it here in Israel, Kosher Pigskin. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep it up. Good luck with all your leagues. Good luck with WalterFootball.com, guys. Go check it out, WalterFootball.com. לכו לאתר של וולטר, WalterFootball.com. Michael, thank you too for taking the time to be here with us. Have a great weekend, and all the best. God bless.
Thanks, Walter.
Thanks guys so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.